Hello, General Hospital will reveal about General Hospital. Ezra and Drew's ruthless plot to oust Laura Collins sparks imminent recall election by Derek Rhodes. March 25, 2025. Port Charles is on the verge of political upheaval. An undercurrent of betrayal and ambition is surging beneath the surface, threatening to explode and engulf City Hall in chaos. At the heart of this storm is none other than Mayor Laura Collins, a woman respected for her long-standing service and unwavering resolve, but who has also made her fair share of enemies over the years. Now, in a shocking twist, Ezra Boyle, played with calculating charm by Daniel Cosgrove, has emerged from the shadows with a bold plan to overthrow Laura Collins and claim the mayor's office for himself. But he's not doing it alone. Ezra has quietly approached Drew Quartermaine, Cameron Matheson, a former hero whose moral compass has recently skewed, and proposed an alliance that could change the face of Port Charles forever. Ezra, a relatively new but increasingly influential member of the city council, has cultivated an image of a composed, pragmatic leader. However, behind the scenes, he burns with ambition and cunning. He knows that taking down Laura will not be easy. She's beloved by many, a symbol of strength and community, but Ezra is not one to back down from a challenge. His ace in the hole. Drew Quartermaine, a man once guided by integrity but now hardened by personal losses, business failures, and a growing contempt for Laura's opposition to his plans for the Port Charles Esplanade development. Laura has been a vocal and persistent critic of Drew's controversial development proposal, warning that the Esplanade project prioritizes corporate greed over the needs of ordinary citizens. To Laura, it's a betrayal of what Port Charles stands for. To Drew, it's personal. Her resistance has not only derailed his vision but also cast doubt on his credibility. Sensing an opportunity, Ezra steps in with a proposition. Help him take Laura down, and in return, he'll ensure Drew gets the political support he needs to push the Esplanade through. It's a win-win, or so it seems. As the two men begin to collaborate, their plan quickly evolves into a full-scale political takedown. The cornerstone of their strategy? Undermining Laura's credibility, not with facts, but with perception. They begin to plant seeds of doubt among the public, exploiting Laura's long-standing friendship with Sonny Corinthos, a name synonymous with the city's criminal underworld. Subtle rumors morph into headline whispers. Photographs of Laura in Sonny's company surface. Speculative articles suggest she's compromised, putting her loyalty to a known mob boss above the needs of her constituents. But that's just the beginning. Ezra and Drew dig into Laura's past, reviving the dark cloud that hung over her during a spike in crime 3 years ago. Back then, she barely survived a recall attempt. Now, Ezra plans to finish what others couldn't. With Drew's vast network and resources, they stir up public sentiment, framing Laura as absent, distracted, and out of touch. They highlight her failure to attend a recent press conference at General Hospital, portraying it as yet another example of her declining commitment to the role of mayor. The city's trust in Laura begins to waver, and the recall buzz gains momentum. Citizens start questioning whether Laura still represents their best interests. Slowly but surely, allies begin to drift away. Ezra, seizing the moment, publicly calls for an emergency recall election. And Drew, playing the part of supportive businessman, begins funding Ezra's quiet campaign, ensuring that his ally will be poised to replace Laura when the time comes. For Laura, the betrayal cuts deep. She's faced political adversity before, but never quite like this. The manipulation is insidious, the attacks deeply personal. And while she remains calm and composed on the surface, she knows she's walking a tightrope. Every move is being watched, every decision scrutinized. This isn't just a power struggle, it's a war for the soul of Port Charles. Ezra and Drew's alliance is built on ambition and convenience, not loyalty or belief. Each man is using the other as a means to an end. But as their scheme gains traction, one thing becomes clear: if they succeed, Port Charles may never be the same again. What they are orchestrating isn't just a political coup, it's a hostile takeover of the values and community spirit the city has long stood for. And yet, Laura isn't ready to step aside. She's been through fire before and come out stronger. As the threat of a recall election looms, she begins rallying her allies, preparing for the fight of her career. She knows that Ezra and Drew are powerful, but she also knows that truth, when wielded with courage, can cut through the thickest lies. The clock is ticking. Port Charles stands on the edge of a knife. Will Laura survive this orchestrated takedown and retain her seat? Or will Ezra, backed by a man who once stood for honor, seize power through deception and ambition? The battle lines have been drawn. Only one can lead the city forward. Stay tuned to General Hospital, weekdays on ABC, as this explosive storyline continues to unfold. The stakes have never been higher. Ezra, the cold strategist with a burning ambition. Though Ezra Boyle has only recently stepped into the spotlight of Port Charles, his presence is impossible to ignore. With his polished demeanor, calm rationality, and diplomatic speech, Ezra exudes the charm of a well-mannered public servant. But behind the composed facade lies a man with a firestorm of ambition, quietly maneuvering through the corridors of power with the precision of a seasoned tactician. His target is clear, the mayor's seat. And for that, Ezra knows he cannot rise alone. He needs a powerful pawn. Someone influential, disillusioned, and ready to strike. Enter Drew Quartermain. Once revered as a symbol of honor and integrity, Drew has become a man shaped by hardship. The idealism that once defined him has been replaced by pragmatism, even bitterness. After suffering multiple personal and professional setbacks, Drew now views the world through a colder, more calculating lens. The final straw came when Laura Collins, the city's long-standing mayor, publicly opposed his Esplanade development project, a move Drew interpreted as both personal betrayal and political sabotage. Laura's stance was rooted in principle. She saw the Esplanade as a symbol of corporate overreach, a project designed to enrich a privileged few while marginalizing the city's vulnerable communities. She didn't shy away from confrontation and made her opposition known, condemning the plan in no uncertain terms. Drew, on the other hand, saw only obstruction, one more gate slammed in his face after years of struggle. Their ideological divide quickly evolved into a full-blown political feud. Ezra, ever the opportunist, recognized this fracture as the perfect entry point. He approached Drew not with flattery, but with strategy. He offered him more than just vengeance, he offered influence. If Drew would align with Ezra and lend him his considerable weight in the financial and media circles of Port Charles, they could orchestrate a recall election, discredit Laura publicly, and place Ezra at the helm of City Hall. In exchange, Ezra promised to greenlight the Esplanade and any future project Drew might champion. It was a proposition wrapped in mutual benefit, power for Ezra, and political vindication for Drew. Together, the two men began to weave a careful web of manipulation and misinformation, preparing to launch a campaign that could permanently alter the leadership of Port Charles. While Ezra operated in the shadows, setting the chessboard, Drew stood ready to knock over the first piece. What started as a quiet alliance was now taking shape into a full-blown coup, and Laura Collins would soon find herself fighting not only for her career, but for the very soul of the city she vowed to protect. The manipulation campaign, taking down Laura through scandal and suspicion. Ezra and Drew didn't stop at strategy and backdoor deals. What followed was a masterclass in political manipulation, a carefully orchestrated media campaign aimed at dismantling Laura Collins' credibility piece by piece. Their objective was simple but ruthless: convince the people of Port Charles that Laura was no longer acting in the public's best interest, but rather protecting her long-standing, controversial relationship with none other than Sonny Corinthos, the city's most infamous crime figure. The plan unfolded like a slow, poisonous drip. It began with whispered rumors in local establishments, then graduated to carefully timed leaks. Shadowy photographs began circulating, capturing Laura in discreet but seemingly frequent meetings with Sonny. Headlines hinted at inappropriate alliances. Anonymous, concerned citizens gave vague interviews to gossip blogs, painting Laura as someone compromised, willing to trade the welfare of her constituents for the loyalty of a mob boss. Ezra and Drew didn't need to prove the rumors, they only needed to plant enough doubt, and let the storm of public speculation do the rest. The timing was calculated. Ezra knew that Laura's approval ratings had already taken a hit in recent months. So he struck where it would hurt most, her past. With surgical precision, Ezra resurrected memories of the crime wave that shook Port Charles 3 years earlier, a time when Laura's leadership was called into question. While she narrowly escaped a recall vote back then, the scars never fully healed in the public psyche. Ezra invoked those memories like a prosecutor reopening a cold case, casting Laura as a mayor who failed once, and was bound to fail again. At town hall meetings and press briefings, Ezra took the gloves off. He painted Laura as absent, inattentive, and increasingly detached from the issues that mattered. He pointed to her failure to attend a recent press conference at General Hospital, a crucial event where key city officials addressed public health concerns. Laura's absence, whether justified or not, was turned into a damning indictment. Ezra portrayed it as just another example of a leader too distracted by personal alliances and behind-the-scenes dealings to fulfill her public duties. The campaign didn't just aim to replace Laura, it aimed to erode the public's trust in her entirely. Every whisper, every headline, every calculated jab was designed to paint a portrait of a mayor no longer fit for office. And while Laura remained silent in the face of the storm, perhaps out of dignity or strategy, the damage was being done. One rumor at a time. One carefully manipulated piece of evidence at a time. Ezra and Drew were playing a long game, and in their minds, they were already winning. But the question lingered like a shadow over Port Charles, would Laura fight back? Or would she be swept away in the rising tide of scandal, betrayal, and carefully crafted lies? Drew, the dangerous player in the game of power at first, Drew hesitated. The plan was bold, ruthless even, and the Drew Quartermain of yesterday might have walked away. But the man he had become, hardened by setbacks, betrayed by allies, and hungry for redemption, that man quickly saw the opportunity laid before him. By helping Ezra ascend to the mayor's office, Drew would gain a powerful ally, one who would fast-track his stalled Esplanade project and, in doing so, unlock a flood of investment, influence, and control. It was a devil's bargain, and Drew signed on without looking back. 2 men, 1 conspiracy. Each chasing their own endgame, bound together by ambition, resentment, and the promise of victory. Drew wasted no time. He tapped into his vast web of connections, calling in favors from media insiders and former business associates. He began manipulating narratives, subtly shifting public perception through editorial influence and strategic leaks. News anchors started asking loaded questions. Political analysts speculated about Laura's effectiveness. Allies of Laura Collins, once loyal, once unshakable, began to waver. Some were seduced by promises of funding and visibility under Ezra's leadership, others simply feared being on the losing side of a rising storm. Behind closed doors, Drew worked the political machine like a maestro. He spoke with donors, courted swing voters, and quietly lobbied council members to support a recall. His reputation as a war hero and entrepreneur lent him credibility, and he used that image to mask the depth of his betrayal. In public, he remained composed, even sympathetic. In private, he was relentless, ensuring that every avenue of support for Laura was slowly, methodically eroded. And the pressure on Laura mounted. Though she carried herself with the grace and composure that had defined her years of leadership, Laura could feel the shift in the air. The once steady ground beneath her feet was starting to crack. Whispers in the halls of City Hall, the changing tones in press coverage, and the silence of once reliable allies all pointed to a truth she could no longer ignore: she was being outmaneuvered. More than that, she was being betrayed. Drew, a man she had once respected and defended, had now positioned himself as the architect of her downfall. And behind him stood Ezra, biding his time like a vulture circling above. Laura's world was closing in. Her name was being dragged through the mud. Her decisions, second-guessed. Her integrity, questioned. And yet, she didn't flinch. But the stakes were undeniable. If the recall vote passed, it would spark a political war unlike anything Port Charles had ever seen. The city would be forced to choose between two starkly different paths: Laura Collins, steadfast, experienced, and principled, despite the storm of accusation, or Ezra Boyle, cunning, charismatic, and backed by a man who had once stood beside her. It would be a battle for truth. For legacy. For the soul of Port Charles. And as the city braced for the coming confrontation, one thing became clear: this was no longer just politics. It was personal. The lines had been drawn. The players were in place. And the endgame was about to begin. Who will triumph, principle or ambition? The people of Port Charles now stand at a political crossroads, forced to make a choice that could redefine the city's future. Will they rally behind a veteran leader who has devoted years to serving the community, yet finds herself entangled in increasingly complex relationships and political baggage? Or will they take a leap of faith on a fresh face, Ezra Boyle, a politician who has never held the reins of power but now emerges with powerful backing and promises of sweeping change? It's more than just a vote. It's a referendum on values. Can Laura Collins weather the storm that has formed around her? Will her legacy, built on perseverance and service, be strong enough to withstand the carefully engineered attacks aimed at toppling her? Or will Ezra, with Drew Quartermain by his side, a man once considered a symbol of loyalty and justice, succeed in reshaping the political landscape through manipulation and ambition? There are no easy answers, and the lines between right and wrong, loyalty and betrayal, are more blurred than ever. So, where do you stand? Do you side with Laura, the steady force in turbulent times, a woman who refuses to be broken despite the odds? Or do you believe in Ezra, the spark behind a new movement, a man whose ambition burns as brightly as the secrets he keeps? And what of Drew? Strategic partner or fallen hero, a man whose choices may define not only his future, but the fate of an entire city? One thing is certain: Port Charles is about to change forever. Don't miss a moment of the unfolding drama on General Hospital, airing weekdays on ABC. And be sure to check back here for exclusive scene breakdowns, behind-the-scenes insights, and the untold secrets driving this high-stakes political war at the heart of Port Charles.